The story begins with Natasha Kampusch, who is with her father in a bar. Natasha, still a small child about 10 years old, watches her father get drunk. He forgets to take her home early for school. Natasha arrives home late, sleeps for a few hours until her mother wakes her, and is made to wear a dress for school. She goes to eat breakfast with her mother in the kitchen. Her mother tells her the bar is not a place for children, stating that if her father brings her home late again, it will be the last time she allows Natasha to go out with him. Natasha agrees with her mother's words, but her mother slaps her on the face, then apologizes for it. Upset, Natasha leaves the house without breakfast and heads to school. While crying on her way to school because of her mother's actions, she is suddenly kidnapped by a man named Wolfgang Pricklepill, who emerges from his van. Wolfgang takes Natasha to his home, placing her in an underground room with an entrance hidden behind a safe under the wooden floor of his house. Natasha wakes up, finding herself in a narrow room without windows or sunlight, containing only an air vent on a wall, a sink, and a toilet seat. Wolfgang enters, bringing a small mattress for her to sleep on, along with food and water, then leaves without a word, locking the door. Natasha tries to open the door, but it is tightly locked. She screams, hoping someone might hear her, but it's impossible since the room is underground. On the third day, Wolfgang brings stories to read to her and her favorite biscuits. As he prepares to leave to let her eat, Natasha stops him, asking for a good night kiss like her mother gives her before sleep. Wolfgang agrees, kisses her forehead, and leaves the room. News of Natasha's kidnapping spreads across all channels, sparking public discussion. Wolfgang at home is visited by his mother, who comes every few days to clean and cook for him. They watch news channels together, and when Natasha's story appears, his mother asks who could kidnap and rape a little girl. Pretending ignorance, Wolfgang suggests the kidnapper might be crazy. One day, Wolfgang goes to wash Natasha's hair. She gives him a letter to send to her family to ease their worries, but when she pleads to go home, he yells, claiming he told her family he kidnapped her for ransom. He adds that if they cared about her, they would have paid it, asserting they don't care about her presence. Natasha calls him a liar, angering him, especially when he hears her crying. He chokes her, drowns her in sink water, orders her to stop crying, tells her to clean the water on the floor, and leaves, locking her in. One day, while Wolfgang sits in his garden with his mother, the police arrive, search his van, and question him about Natasha's kidnapping. They find nothing, especially since they see his family with him at home. The next day, Natasha, sleeping and dreaming of her family, misses them deeply, feeling she may never see them again. Wolfgang enters, waking her to eat. She asks for a watch to track the hours and days of her captivity. Wolfgang agrees, provided she behaves well in the coming period. He installs a phone in the room for communication between them. Natasha asks if Wolfgang feels lonely and free, like she feels while kidnapped. Unable to respond, he goes to his room, thinks about her question, and tears up her letter. Days pass until day 183 arrives. Natasha, playing and bumping into objects in the room, pretends they are students at school. She draws a handle on the door and a room on the wall, as she only interacts with Wolfgang. While playing, Wolfgang asks if she brushed her teeth and cleaned her dishes. He repeatedly orders her to obey, revealing his mental illness and deficiencies. The next day, Natasha puts food scraps on her arm, pretending to have a skin disease. When Wolfgang brings her food, she shows him her arm, asking to see a doctor. Discovering her act, he locks her up for a long time as punishment, treats her violently, and carries her while she screams. He tells her to scream as much as she wants, as no one will hear her, shows her the exit door to taunt her, throws her back into the room, and leaves. After 4 days, Natasha, having eaten nothing, begs Wolfgang to their phone for food, but he ignores her. Desperate, she says she wants to go home. Wolfgang yells, telling her to shut up and obey. For years pass since her kidnapping, with the situation unchanged. Wolfgang deprives her of food for 3 or 4 days at a time, while Natasha begs daily for food. He repeatedly says, shut up. Malnutrition and psychological pressure leave Natasha's body thin, with bones protruding from her skin. Missing sunlight, she is told by Wolfgang that the doors and windows are rigged with bombs, and any escape attempt will kill her. One time, he allows her to go to the bathroom with him, where she sees sunlight for the first time in 4 years. One day, Wolfgang's mother at his house notices blonde hair on his clothes, assuming he has a girlfriend for the first time. After she leaves, he shaves Natasha's hair completely. After 5 years of captivity, Christmas arrives. Natasha celebrates alone as always, decorating her room with a Christmas tree to feel rare joy. Wolfgang enters, dressed in an elegant suit, with a video camera to record her opening his gifts, a music player and 3 famous novels. Natasha asks to call her family, but Wolfgang, enraged, tells her to consider them dead and locks her up. Months later, he decides to let her sleep in his room, tie her hand to his to prevent escape. Later, Wolfgang goes skiing, leaving Natasha alone. She asks to join him, promising to behave, but returns to her room and he locks the door. After his trip, Wolfgang attends a party, tries to socialize, but due to his mental illness and need for solitude, returns home and rapes Natasha in his bed. Submissive, she knows she can't resist. Natasha asks to visit his garden at night. Wolfgang agrees but grows nervous someone might see her, so he takes her back to her room. When she resists, he pulls her forcefully, cuts the rope binding her, and throws her into the room. After 5.5 years, Wolfgang enslaves Natasha, forcing her to do household chores, beating her, and calling her a stupid dog. He cooks food, starves her for days, and eats in front of her. Once, when Natasha eats his food, he beats her, pulls it from her mouth before she swallows, and throws her into a room without food. Months later, Wolfgang takes her to buy new clothes, threatening to kill her with his gun if she tries to escape. At a hardware store to choose paint for his room, he leaves her alone, but she can't escape, hearing his voice telling her to shut up until he returns. They go home. Months later, Wolfgang shows Natasha his renovated room, which she herself worked on. Days later, she hears radio news suggesting she might be dead, leaving her depressed. Wolfgang doesn't leave her alone. When she asks why he chose her, he reveals he kidnapped her after seeing her smile as a child in a shop eating biscuits, spending 8 months building her underground room. One day, unable to endure her life with Wolfgang, Natasha tries to commit suicide by burning tissues to suffocate herself. Her survival instinct prevails. She extinguishes a fire and ventilates the room. Wolfgang discovers her attempt, beats her severely, and continues to scare her. Unable to defend herself, Natasha counts his hits, writing them on tissues. Months later, Wolfgang takes her skiing on icy hills, but her frail body can't move or stand. She falls constantly. Needing the bathroom, Wolfgang ensures it's empty to prevent communication. In the bathroom, Natasha hears a woman's voice and tells her, "I am Natasha Kampusch, kidnapped 8 years ago," asking for help. The woman, speaking Russian, doesn't understand and leaves. Wolfgang takes Natasha, and in the car, he asks what she said. She denies saying anything, so he hits her hard in the face, continues beating her body, and tells her not to lie. Back in her room, Natasha records the day's hits on tissues, storing them in a large box filled with 8 years of abuse memories. On her 18th birthday, Wolfgang celebrates with Natasha, bringing a dress. She dances with him reluctantly, her body too weak to move or stand. The next day, needing money, Wolfgang makes Natasha clean his car inside and out for sale, forcing her to wear her birthday dress, which gets ruined. During a phone call, he steps away for a signal. Natasha notices the garden gate is open. Though afraid, she's fed up and doesn't care what happens. She escapes to the gate, running quickly and fearfully, reaching a stranger's house to report her kidnapping. The police arrive. She tells them she is Natasha Kampusch, kidnapped for 8 years and has finally escaped. She speaks to the police and her mother, who learn they found her daughter. Wolfgang, discovering her escape, goes to a train and commits suicide. Finally, Natasha reunites with her family, hugging them after 96 days of separation. Thus, the film ends. We'll meet in a new recap. Thanks for watching.